Heyo, my name is Michael Cody, but you can call me MC. I'm here today to talk about my distal bicep tendon rupture, how I did it and how you can too. Recover from it, how you can recover from it and avoid it. Bicep tendon ruptures are when one of two tendons that help the bicep right here stay connected to the bone. It's when they tear. The most common bicep complete ruptures happen in the proximal position of the bicep where it connects in the joint, because impingement can cause the bones to cut through the tendon, especially in older age, whereas the distal bicep attaches right here, right past the elbow. It is far more uncommon to happen simply because there's not really a force other than downward motion from weight or resistance to cause the distal position to tear. It's more common in weightlifter, people who push their bodies in a way to lift things that are sometimes too heavy for their bodies to handle, like in my case, especially with bad form. We'll get into that later. Bicep tendon ruptures account for 3 to 5 patients out of every 100,000 patients admitted to the hospital. Out of those 3 to 5 patients, only about 1.2 people are there for a distal bicep tear. The function of the bicep is to aid in supination of the hand, so palms up. When you twist your arm, see that contraction there? That is the main function of the bicep. If you have a complete bicep tendon rupture, there is no way for your body to repair that on its own. It has to be surgically repaired. And you will lose about 30 to 40% of overall strength in that arm if you do not get it repaired. For the majority of people, that is just fine, especially into older age when you're not going to be doing physical labor jobs. You can get by with just one arm. With surgery, you can restore up to 80 to 90% of the strength, and with proper training, you can get back to doing the same stuff you were doing before, just hopefully smarter than I did. Now that we have some general information about the bicep tendon and how it can rupture, I'm going to tell you about how I tore my bicep tendon and how I could have avoided it. At the time of my injury, I was working a lot of physical activity at my work on a day-to-day basis. So I was definitely overworked. I was working out about 5 hours a week, and I wasn't sleeping very well. I was doing a lot of travel after work, caffeine, staying awake, not taking care of my health. So I was definitely overworked, and I was dieting at the time. So I didn't have enough calories, and I was beating myself up. I was also in the middle of moving, so I was just compounding all this stuff. The main contributing factor to my distal bicep tendon rupture was that for a long time I had been rolling the shoulder forward while working out. When you're doing any exercise, if you're not retracting the scapula properly, you're gonna hurt yourself eventually, because the weakness goes down the line to the weakest link, and that just so happened to be the distal bicep tendon rupture. I was doing barbell curls, straight bar. I was just powering through it, just had too much weight, bad form. I lowered the weight and my shoulder rolled forward, so the muscle was still contracted. My bicep was still contracted. Went to curl it, and when I went to curl it, with it already being contracted, the downward force of the weight on my arm and the extra force I was putting trying to curl it, it was enough to completely shear the bicep tendon from the bone and cause it to retract. At the time it happened, there was not a lot of pain. I will say I was surprised. I felt more like kind of just when you let go of rubber bands and don't let them snap you, and how it just kind of has that spring feeling. That's how it felt. And more than anything, I heard it happen. It sounded like a bunch of celery. You know how they do in the movies to make sound effects, and you just twisted it and pulled it like the sound effect thing. It was pretty nasty sound. Sorry for the graphic descriptor. Yeah, so I was doing these bicep curls improperly, rolled the shoulder. I hear that sound, and then skedaddle, skadoodle, my arm is now a noodle. And I immediately set down the weight, walked over, turned off my music. I had just the loudest death metal blaring. This all happened at my house, by the way. Sit down, take a sip of water. I knew immediately what had happened. I then start looking down at what's going on with my arm, and I look at it, and I looked like Popeye. My arm, there was just like a 3-inch gap between my elbow and the bicep, which if you look here, there's not really a gap, but the muscle was about right there. And it was just all balled up. Looked really big, but really gross too. I wrapped my arm up in a kitchen towel and wrapped it around my neck. I don't know how I did any of this, but I got myself all slung up. Went to the hospital, said there was no muscular damage, it was just the tendon, so there wasn't any internal bleeding. And they said that they were going to schedule me for an MRI to assess what the damage is before they go forward with surgery or anything else. And a lot of people were being sent in when I was supposed to get my MRI with lungs full of liquid and collapsed lungs and other bronchial issues, which I can understand. My stupidity is not more important than people who are literally fighting for their lives. It took about 2 weeks to get in, which generally you want to have surgery within the first 2 weeks. It took me a month to get there. But there's no issues, especially since I'm younger. The recovery is going to be a lot more easy for me. So the MRI, they determined that the muscle had retracted 9 centimeters. 2 weeks after the MRI, my surgery was scheduled, and I was able to get in. They had me all dressed up, the gown, the little hat, everything. In the hospital, they decided not to give me general anesthesia just because with this type of injury, they don't like to do general anesthesia. They're not working on any internal organs. It's just muscular. So they injected nerve blockers right here in my trap. And it was the weirdest feeling because they injected it and they had to like search around for little pockets of muscle or something to inject in, and you could just feel it just start. It's more like you could just not feel anymore, and then it's just like you going down, you just start losing sensation in your arm. And shortly after they gave me the nerve blocker, they bring me into the operating room. The surgeon was very nice. The nurses were very nice. They helped out with keeping me calm. That one of them was just talking to me, and then next thing I know, I'm waking up. It's like 3 hours later, and they're handing me a picture of the inside of my arm, and my arm is just wrapped in the biggest, heaviest sling you could imagine. They formed some plastic around my arm, and it's full of cotton, and they wrapped it in multiple layers of gauze, and it's just like thick, heavy sling held at just a straight angle. And I could not move the arm at all, and I could not feel the arm at all for about 2 days, and sensation slowly came back, and my fingers started tingling. I was able to move them a little bit after the first day, and then it took about 2 full days before I was able to really feel my arm again. And speaking of which, post-surgery, right here on my arm, there was a little bit of numbness just from the surgery. It's still very, very slightly, I'm missing some sensation, but for the most part I can feel it, and over time that'll come back. It's because when they do the surgery, they have to move the nerve over, and when they move it, it just causes a little bit of sensation loss down the chain. It's very common, and I don't know the actual statistics, but the majority of people get sensation back in the arm within 6 months from what I've read. 2 weeks after being in this splint, they removed the splint and they put me in a brace, and this brace was very uncomfortable. I had to go back and get a different brace. I actually have the one that they replaced it with right here. This one looks pretty cool. This is the Mr. Roboto arm. This is the one that everyone thinks looks real cool. The other one was not, and not comfortable at all. At that time, I was trying to be more active. I was walking the dog, but in the splint, it was so tight that I couldn't swell up. Once they removed the splint, the swelling got real bad, and so I bought one of these compression sleeves to put around my arm to try and keep it from swelling, and it helped a lot, because when it would swell up, it'd just get huge, like a sausage just about to burst. You'd see where the splint was on it. The skin was just like bubbling out, and it was just uncomfortable, painful, and not very fun. Definitely, if you've just gotten surgery, I would invest in a compression sleeve, because that will help keep the swelling down, because once it swells up, it gets quite painful. That was the only real painful part of this whole procedure for me, was the swelling after I had the splint removed. They kept me in that arm brace for about 2 or 3 weeks, and it was just held at, I think, 60 degrees and unable to move it. Then another 2 or 3 weeks after that, they extended it, and then about 6 weeks in total post-surgery, I was unable to move the arm, but then slowly I was able to move the arm in the brace, and then slowly came off the brace. 12 weeks post-operation, my wonderful physical therapist gave me a high-volume interval training program that's about 15 minutes long. It includes a lot of band work to correct my posture, because we have determined that the issue that caused my bicep tendon rupture was me having bad posture and form during working out, rolling the shoulder forward. So I'm doing a lot of band work to correct that. And I'm doing some lighter bicep curls, tricep extensions, and hand rotation. That is my main issue right now, is I'm unable to rotate my hand fully, but it's getting better and better as time goes on. And I'm just going to continue working on rotation and strengthening that motion. I'll include a short workout video that has my program. I would not suggest following along. I would suggest speaking to a physical therapist on your own, getting assessed for your own needs and what you are able to do at that time, because everyone's different. Everyone needs to be seen by a professional, which I am not. Whoa. Just finished mowing the lawn. It's time to hit the bicep workout, so let's get this going. hurts. With the high volume interval training to re-strengthen my arm, I've noticed a huge improvement from where I was just a couple weeks ago to where I am now. My short-term goals are to work in more push-ups, more body weight stuff to try and re-strengthen myself, get myself used to working out. And a little longer term, maybe a month, month and a half, I want to be back in the gym doing the pull downs, doing all the pull work I can, and work my way back up to doing at least one, but I want to get back to doing pull-ups. I want to be able to do that before I start trying to get back into doing bent over rows, doing my other barbell work that I'm used to. I'm going to slowly ease back into it. If you're injured yourself, please leave a comment. Tell me what happened, your experience with recovery, or if you just want to watch me struggle, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, come back, because I'm planning on doing some follow-up videos about my return to the gym. This is just the first in a short series I'm going to do on this. So thank you for watching. Oh yeah, and here's that scar. I look like I'm about to get recruited into Hogwarts with this thing going on.